what's going on? Welcome into Sideline. Welcome in Sports. I'm your man, Eric Wilson, filling in tonight for Jake Malik, who may be joining us a little bit later. But we've got a lot to talk about tonight, and we've got a very special guest. But before we get to all that, make sure you check out Sideline Sports 1 on all social media, Twitter, and also Instagram. And of course, we all show love to our sponsors, Manscaped, and also Score No Score. Download that Score No Score app. Manscaped, check it out, the Lawnmower 4.0. Trust me, your balls will thank you. But let me get the guy in here, the man that holds the glue together and keeps us rolling. My man, Jon Shearer's in the building. Good evening, sir.
Hey, how's it going? Better than the Dolphins, huh?
Almost as good as my Eagles, but we'll talk about that, I'm sure, at some point over the course of the night. But we've got a very special guest joining us this evening. He is from the South Florida Tribune. He is the Motor City Madmouth, Scott Morganroth. Scott, welcome to Sideline Sports. How are you?
All right. Thank you very much for having me, guys. I'm glad to be here.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about the South Florida Tribune and a little bit about yourself. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself before we get into all this Dolphins stuff.
No problem. I've been in the sports media for the better part of 42 years. So if you come back to 1979, that's when I first got my start in the business. I was a sports producer for WXYZ radio for sports talk. And then I ended up taking a position for the Detroit Monitor, wrote for them for the better part of 40 years. And of course, I managed to stay in the business, working at numerous newspapers, having a lot of on-air gigs and so forth. So I've been pretty well traveled. You know, I worked at Tampa Tribune, the Hollandale Digest, Detroit Monitor, and done numerous on-air things. It's been a great ride. I've really, really, truly enjoyed it. And now I started the South Florida Tribune a couple of years ago, which is an online publication. And we also have a broadcast division as well. So we do podcasts, both sports and non-sports related podcasts, as well as provide a lot of great content, sports and non-sports related for our local as well as national following. So we feel it's important to have a good local and national following, you know, because nowadays when you're dealing with the internet, your information goes out more people than most people think, unlike the regular terrestrial radio days where it's limited to a specific area.
So talk to me. I was like calling you Motor City Madmouth. Talk to me about, you know, not only your love of sports, but how all of this really came about.
With the South Florida Tribune, well, that's easy. Now everybody knows that newspapers are very much rapidly on the decline. And I thought this was a good opportunity for me, since I don't have to go out there and have a big building print things out, to begin my own online publication. When you bring on writers, you don't have to worry about cutting their story to shreds just to accommodate the space. And you know, when you have a lifelong passion in the business, then you certainly want to find a way to stay in it. And this turned out to be a perfect opportunity where, you know, ironically, one of my favorite employers was the Tampa Tribune. When I was going there from 84 to 86, attending the University of South Florida. And I was just going to GoDaddy one time trying to look for domain names. So when I went out there and asked GoDaddy, is South Florida Tribune available? They said, as a matter of fact, yes. Well, you know, I bounced on that because now I have a region in South Florida and my favorite publication, the Tampa Tribune. And you combine the South Florida Tribune, and that's how it really came up with the whole thing. So it kind of worked out. And now I've actually opened up have a domain name, the Motor City Tribune as well, because I am from the Metro Detroit area. It's really, really small right now, but it's certainly another leg for what we're doing. So, you know, the technology, it's like old school versus new school. Got to tell you a funny story recently. I don't know how funny, but it's really a neat story. When I went out to Iowa and did the Field of Dreams. Everybody knows if you build it, they will come. So when you talk about old school versus new school, my old school approach, being in this industry, enabled us to put together a couple of videos and a Facebook Live. Say, hey, my name is Scott Morganroth. I'm the publisher for the South Florida Tribune. I'd like to do a couple of interviews. And when we got the PR guy on for the Field of Dreams website, the guy was definitely more than happy, followed us on a lot of the platforms. And, you know, so we were able to, it really worked out really well. I mean, when you think about The Field of Dreams. I don't know about you guys. One of my favorite movies of all time.
It's my favorite baseball movie.
What's
hands
that?
Down. It's my favorite baseball movie, hands down. So
between
I
that and
love
Sandlot, it's my favorite baseball
Yeah.
movie as well. Yeah.
Come on, how are we not talking about Major League, guys? Really?
Oh,
That's a good one,
I
too.
didn't knock Major League. I'm just saying that I absolutely love Field of Dreams and 42. The two favorite
Well, I got
baseball
news. So
movies.
the opportunity for us to do a couple of recordings, and I wrote a story on it, worked out well. Plus, it also works. When we go out there and try to associate people, what kind of stuff have you done? Well, one of my top projects that I really took a lot of pride in was being able to work out a situation where they didn't charge me for tours. They were more than happy to oblige, and we ended up doing a couple things plus a Facebook Live in the Cornfield. It's just unbelievable. So, but my whole idea is when you can take old school versus new school and get creative and do things with it, that's really what it's all about, because we have a lot more to work with than there was back in the day when I first got into business.
That sounds so great. You're saying you did
Amazing.
the Facebook Live in the cornfield. Just in love with that story. Like I want to be.
I'm with you. Yeah.
I want to be at one of those games when they do it again. I want to be there because that's just that's as good as it gets.
It was
It
awesome.
really is.
I mean, I gotta be honest. Look, you guys know I'm a Yankees fan, and I watched that. And while the ending pained me to no avail, that was so.
It was clear what was coming.
That was so awesome, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I didn't care if we won or lost as much as I was just. This is so cool. Like we're watching baseball in a cornfield, and it felt like this is where it needs to be played.
Yep.
It's like like football. When we see football in the snow, it's like this is just how it was meant to be done. Like I know it's not always that way, but that's the way it's supposed to be. It was one of those moments I was like, this is how it's supposed to look like. Like they don't do it often, but this is what you're supposed to see when you're watching that game. And
The only way
awesome.
football's not supposed to be in the snow is if it's a conference championship in Miami for the AFC title. That's the only way it's not supposed to be in the snow. That's the only way.
Well, always comes back to Miami with him.
Believe it or not, we did this thing on Halloween day. So I'm walking in there with my wife Candy, and as loud as I am and animated as I am, not that you guys couldn't figure it out anyways, I'm just crashing right out there. Hello, everybody. This is Scott Morgan Rob with South Florida Tribune, here live over at the Field of Dreams, and my hands are all over the place. I dare anybody to get near me or they'd have gotten whacked somewhere because I'm so animated as you can hardly tell. In fact, many years ago, when I was doing a radio show out in Arizona, they had like 4 of us over in the booth, and I had my own spot because I was so animated. The co-host stayed on the other side of the table because they were afraid I was going to do a little bit of an elbow job or somebody was going to get whacked with my hands, not intentionally, but when you get on a roll, my goodness, you get on a cotton picker.
Absolutely.
And it's just remember when John Madden would have that thing where he came out there and moved his hands all over the place and all that. That's what I felt like in that situation with the Field of Dreams. But, having my own publication, to me, gives me the ability, whether you cover sporting events or you don't, it doesn't make any difference anymore. Because the problem that we have during COVID is access is so compromised, it really is. So now we are forced to live with a different situation with Zoom. But, and that's what brings out your character, though, guys. It really, really does. You want to talk about having a big, deep bag of tricks, you're really forced to do that. So, improvise, call it what you want. But I got plenty of other great ideas that hopefully I'll have all of y'all on at some point on my platform. I'm just so happy that you guys are giving me the opportunity to talk about it tonight.
Of course.
And
Absolutely.
whenever you want me to come back.
Appreciate it. Well, we're going to have you shameless plug on the sports arena tomorrow night as well. But I know we want to talk about, the coaching, hiring and firing, well, mostly firing that's been going on. So, you are down there in Deerfield, closer to the Dolphins than John, the fan, or me, the reporter, are. So let's talk about them for a minute. Scott, were you shocked and surprised by this? Because last night when we talked, John saw the writing on the wall, and I guess he was one of the few people who actually saw it. But can you just give us your thoughts on, Brian Flores no longer being a Miami Dolphin head coach?
Yeah, I got to tell you, I'm kind of surprised that firing a little bit, and I'll tell you why. Because there didn't seem to be any inclining that anything could happen. Now, I want to go over some stats with you about the Miami Dolphins coaching through the years, okay? And you'll know where I'm going with this. The last coach that had a winning record with the Miami Dolphins was Dave Wannstedt from 2000 to 2004 when he was 43 and 33.
The guy that drove Dan Marino out of
What?
I said the guy that drove Dan Marino out. Once he came, Marino
Jimmy
was
Johnson is the one.
nope,
Yeah,
nope.
Jimmy, I'll never forget that. Jimmy Johnson. Problem with Dan Marino is he didn't mind running up some stats, but when Jimmy Johnson said, I won with the Cowboys using a running attack and a passing, Dandy Dan here didn't mind swinging the rock around. But when you look at the Dolphins, have only had, in their illustrious history, 3 coaches with winning records. Don Shula from 1970 to 95. We all know how well he did, 274, 147, and 2. Jimmy Johnson was 38 and 31 from 96 to 99. And then you had Dave Wannstedt from 2000 to 2004, 43 and 33. The one that followed Wannstedt was Nick Saban. And then ever since then, they've changed coaches every few years. So
Well, Wannstedt was also coincidentally the last time they won a playoff game too, because Lamar Miller ran about 40 times in a playoff game in Miami, and that was the last time they won a game in the playoffs.
Right. Yeah, so I guess you could say I was a little bit stunned at the Brian Flores firing. But apparently there was so much instability with his coaching staff. You can't keep changing offensive coordinators all the time either.
No.
Otherwise, you're going to ruin a quarterback. And apparently the general manager and him were not on the same page. So when you put all those things together, that leads to a change, and the Dolphins certainly made it. Now he's had 2 winning seasons in a row. So you can't argue with the fact that he's certainly doing the best he can at what he has to work with. Now, I know we're early in this process in terms of candidates about who should be and who shouldn't be. But I'll give you a couple little things, 2 guys that I think would be potentially good fits. Brian Daboll of the Buffalo Bills, I think, would be a really good hire. We all know that he worked with Tua Tagovailoa when he was at Alabama for a year. And the other name out there that I believe would be good would be Eric Bieniemy, who's long overdue. He really is. Eric Bieniemy, I have a strong feeling will get hired during this coaching cycle. I really do. Now, everybody is talking about where Brian Flores could go. Well, there's only 6 openings right now. But watch, this might happen or may not, depending on what happens in Houston. Let's just use a hypothetical, okay, that David Culley gets fired with Houston. Don't you think Brian Flores would be a good fit there, knowing Nick Caserio used to be with New England, and then those New England guys like to line up everywhere else.
It was also reported that the only reason that Deshaun Watson was going to waive his no trade clause for the Dolphins was because Brian Flores. So if that happens, I could see Deshaun Watson potentially coming back to Houston if Brian Flores comes there, because that's the only reason he wanted to be in Miami. And I believe that's the only reason Fuller wanted to be in Miami, was because he thought Watson was going to end up there at some point, and it didn't happen. And I think Fuller just said, well, I'm good, and ended up just never playing again.
Brian Flores won't go to Houston. I can tell you that right now.
I'm just
Brian
telling you,
Flores
if it does.
will not go. Okay, you can mark it on the calendar right now, January 11th, 2022 at 8:45 p.m. on Sideline Sports. Brian Flores is not going to Houston. They are going to seriously have to back up the dump truck and give him full control of that team in order for him to sign on the dotted line. With everything that has happened in Houston, we've seen the turmoil, we've seen the alleged allegations, we've just seen that entire organization get flipped upside down. You know it's bad if J.J. Watt is leaving the Houston Texans and apologizing to guys on his way out. If Brian Flores goes to Houston, he needs to be drug tested.
Well, one thing I'll say this, Eric, having been in the business for 42 years, I've seen crazier things happen. Okay, you never know.
I'm sure you have.
I have. I'm not going to say that it's definitely a good fit that he will go. But the only reason why I even connect the dots there, Eric, is because of Nick Caserio being a Patriots guy. Other than that, I could definitely say that Brian Flores would not go there. And there won't be any shortage of places that the guy can go. You know, think about it. He's interviewing with the Bears anyways. You never know if he'll end up with Minnesota. And you have the New York Giants job that just opened up. And
we'll talk about that soon.
Yeah, I'm sure. You can imagine. So, and I'm sure there's a couple that I'm leaving out, but those are the ones that stand out to me. So, in the wonderful world of coaching hires, as the carousel turns every year on Monday after the fact, I'll go something that's really deeper, that is way before any of you guys were born. Okay. And I'm going to take you back to Detroit, Michigan, back in 1979. Now, I know you weren't born back then.
Yep.
I don't
believe. I was 3 years old.
Oh, were you? Okay. Well, get this, okay? I remember as a Detroit Lions fan back then, I wanted the Detroit Lions to take Chuck Knox, assistant coach. He lands with the LA Rams. The Lions get Monty Clark. Bad move. We all know how well Knox did with the Rams, and we know that Monty Clark struggled in Detroit. So, when you talk about things that could or should have happened, well, it is what it is.
Yeah. So I'll say this about Flores. I expected a lot of firings. Matt Nagy got fired. Mike Zimmer, I wasn't surprised. Joe Judge finally got fired today. All of those, to me, I saw them. I said, yeah, it all makes sense. I get it. Those were pretty much, the writing was literally on the wall. You may as well have physically written it in marker, right? Everybody knew those were coming. Brian Flores, to me, it felt like out of left field because he's a good coach. I don't agree with some of the things he did last year, and John, you know that. I didn't love the way he handled Tua, but with that said, that doesn't change the fact that he is a good coach. You can't take that away, that he is a solid coach in this league, and he definitely deserved at least another year. And I think he should have gotten more, but at least one more year, right?
He's a great defensive mind, but he hasn't been able to take care of the offense. And as a head coach, we said yesterday on SportsRun, as a head coach, you got to be able to take care of all three phases, and he's taking care of one out of three phases.
I think part of that problem, though, he didn't want Tua from the beginning. And
no, he didn't.
That's,
right.
And that's why he got fired. Yep. I don't think any other reason than
him and Tua. It apparently came out today that him and Tua got into a shouting match at halftime at the Tennessee game. And they were yelling and swearing at each other in the locker room.
They chose Tua over Flores. I think it
boils
down
to Greer.
Basically that.
Greer's been there for over 20 years, and they won't get rid of that guy for whatever reason.
But I say that because they chose to draft Tua despite the coach not wanting him, right? And now they chose to keep Tua despite the coach probably being the better choice if you're going to choose one over the other. And I'm not saying that's a knock Tua. I'm just saying I think Flores is a really good coach. He proved it to me. And I do think that if you gave him a different quarterback that he'd be happy with, this team would be just as good, if not better. I think Tua's got some growing pains to still go through. And I think they judged him a little too hard. The fact that he got you guys to that win streak that you had, things improved, things were getting better. I'm impressed. I was impressed with what he did.
But,
so him getting fired was
but like Scott said, you can't, as a head coach, as a new head coach especially, you can't have a rotation of coordinators.
He's
you can't
not a
have
coach.
He 3 years in, that is new. You have a short leash.
That is not new. 3 years is the lifespan of an average NFL quarterback.
That is a short leash for a guy that hasn't proven himself, that has had
serious?
instability.
That has himself. What do you mean?
He hasn't.
How many coaches get 1 year in the NFL and they're one and done? How many coaches?
I'm telling you that he has not proven himself. They haven't gone to the playoffs. They had a 7-game losing streak, and they were ready to fire him.
And a 7-game winning streak, John, which you raved about.
But they were ready to fire him after they hit that 7th game in a row they lost. They were ready to fire him right then.
So he turns it around and puts your team in a position to potentially make the playoffs.
I think Ross made up his mind.
You don't see it.
I think Ross made up his mind once they hit that 7th loss in a row. I don't think he ever changed his mind. I think he was dead set. And like I said before, what Ross wants is what Ross
I don't think it has anything to do with that.
So if you would have
but I think he had his mind made up.
Playoffs, would there have been a change of mind?
Huh?
Yeah, I don't
think
if the Dolphins would have made the playoffs. would there have been a change of mind?
I think so.
Not
you
with.
know what? Here's my perspective on this whole thing. Number one, okay, Brian. A lot of people are really upset about the Brian Flores firing because they do feel he should have gotten another year. And to me, he's had 2 winning seasons in a row, something that hasn't been done in these parts for a while. But you cannot go ahead and have a general manager and coach not on the same page. You cannot do it. I don't care what anybody says.
You can't have the head coach. I mean, the quarterback and the head coach on a different page too.
I'm telling you right now.
You know what? The quarterback needs to figure himself out because I still got a lot.
No, but I'm telling you how it works.
I'm telling you this right now. The reason he was fired was nothing other than a power struggle between him and the GM, and the fact that he did not like the quarterback.
Right.
GM liked the quarterback. The coach didn't. So they made it was a clear choice. We either choose our coach and probably get rid of our GM and our quarterback, or we get rid of our coach and we keep our GM and we keep the quarterback that we seem to like.
Think about how he.
It was a power struggle between those two guys.
You really want to have this conversation?
That's what Greer is to the Dolphins. Is what Howie Roseman is to the Eagles. They won't get rid of him for whatever reason. I don't know why, but they just stick with him no matter what. But
in the Philadelphia situation, really quick, Scott, I apologize. In the Philadelphia situation, I'm sorry, did not both the quarterback and the head coach leave?
And they still kept Roseman, right?
Okay. All right. No.
I'm saying they won't get rid of him for whatever reason.
Hold on. You're saying in Miami, it was the GM and the quarterback, so the head coach had to go. It's a completely different situation in Philly. Because if Doug would have stayed, or if Carson would have stayed, and only Doug left, which did happen because we brought in, because Carson was gone too. They were both gone.
Yeah. And they still kept Howie.
They're both gone, and Howie's still there. So we have a new coach, and we've got a second year, really first year,
yeah,
quarterback in Jalen Hurts. Okay, so Howie stayed in Miami. Brian Flores turned that team around against all obstacles that were brought in front of him. He changed the dynamic of that team,
including a quarterback that he was not a fan of. Mind you, that
he did not like the quarterback selection from jump, but you know what? He realized he had to find a way to make it work, and he did as the seasons progressed. But Tua may not have liked Brian, but they were winning. And what does winning do? Winning is the deodorant. Winning will mask all those other problems.
But what the Dolphins have done,
the fact that your general manager decided to side with his quarterback, a guy who is injury prone, a guy who only in the last part of this season actually started to get his stuff together. So you're going to side with him when you could gladly go out there and go out with Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson or somebody else, because that's the missing piece in your team being successful. Brian Flores did this with all obstacles in front of him and still made your team relevant, Jon Shearer. So the fact of the matter, in my opinion, and you will not change my mind on this, Brian Flores set the Miami Dolphins up for success. The next coach that comes in there is going to profit and benefit. And I'm telling you this, if the Miami Dolphins next year make the playoffs, I am telling you right now, it is the Brian Flores team.
But the Dolphins... Go ahead, Scott.
If you go there, then you might as well just bring on that analogy that Tony Dungy set everything up for John Gruden.
John Gruden. Mark Jackson did it for Steve Kerr. Jim Caldwell did it for whoever came in after Caldwell. I could go over the laundry list if you'd like me to.
Well, here, let's take the narrative 5 hours north of I-95, where I was this past weekend with the Jacksonville Jaguars, also in the coaching hunt here, okay? You got Trent Baalke, who nobody can get along with. At least Jim Harbaugh couldn't. So then who do you bring in to that situation? Well, I mean, since we're talking about NFL coaches, the two that would make the most sense for me would be Jim Caldwell. You brought it up anyways, Eric, right? Very stable guy. Yeah, everybody knows when he left the Lions, that organization
went downhill.
Ship. And then Doug Peterson has won a Super Bowl, and everybody's talking about Byron Leftwich. So when you put things in perspective about, and I think Byron Leftwich, if he doesn't get hired during this coaching cycle, will be the heir apparent to Bruce Arians out in Tampa, is what I think with Tom Brady there. So, but when you talk about the coaches and relationships that you have to have with your general manager, you guys have to be in sync. And if you're not in sync about what one person does and respect it from all levels, I didn't expect to go up to Jacksonville and see the Colts lose to the Jaguars. I didn't. But I'm going to tell you something. I mean, I could not believe that Jonathan Taylor, before my eyes, 2 or 4 if you count the glasses, okay, would get 77 yards. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Nope.
Some of us, we got to have these. I mean, how many eyes we got on here? Other than the fact that Jake only has 6.
I got contacts in. I'm a glasses person too. Just wear my contacts. We're all the same way.
16 pairs of eyes right here on Sideline Sports.
We're all one the same.
So, but what the reality is different strokes for different folks depending on what your flavor is. If you're looking for a veteran situation, I definitely feel that Brian Flores was underappreciated here. He really was. There's no question about it. He laid out the groundwork for somebody else if they don't screw up the hire. Again, that's a job here where, all right, you know what? We have Tua, don't ruin him. I can tell you, you want to talk about a guy who many in the eyes would say would be a bust. Joey Harrington in the eyes was considered a bust too. But the problem is you have a lot of instability on the coaching side. Marty Morningwig started out with Steve Mariucci, couldn't fix him. And you had a lot of offensive coordinators that subsequently followed. So where do you guys really take what a quarterback is in terms of a bust? Because of numbers or the coaching staff, the lack of a general manager and offensive coordinator? Where do you go ahead and summarize? Because can Tua be a bust? I don't know. I don't think he will. I don't personally think that Tua is better than just a good quarterback. I really think that he's limited.
But don't you see like the Drew Brees type of accuracy? Because that's like Drew Brees type of accuracy, right? Because Drew Brees wasn't.
You're out of order.
But he didn't have a big arm.
You're out of order.
He was an
John,
accurate
hold on,
guy.
do me a favor, John. Don't say anything for 2 seconds. I just want to put this up again. I'm sorry. John, you know how much I care. You are my boy. You know that. We are in the show, and I say this with love. You are absolutely insane, certifiably. I just needed to say we don't condone anything you're about to say. This is your thoughts and opinions. That does not represent myself, Eric, or JB. That is John and John alone.
Look, when you look at Drew Brees and what Drew Brees was in San Diego, he was injury prone, right? Everybody labeled him injury prone. Everybody wrote him off. He was supposed to go to the Dolphins. He's very Dolphins. They wrote him off too. So what did they do? They went and got Dante Culpepper. The Saints took a chance on Drew Brees. Drew Brees was never a big arm guy. He was always an accurate guy. Short, like Tua, right? Same thing, where it's that elite accuracy is what made Drew Brees great. It wasn't his big arm. It was that he was able to have pinpoint accuracy. And that's what I see potentially in Tua is the pinpoint accuracy. You don't have to have a big arm. Tom Brady was a dink and dunk guy for a lot of New England. Yeah, he was able to make big throws, but Tom Brady, he had a lot of dink and dunk. Like, there's nothing wrong with being able to throw short to intermediate passes and be successful in the NFL. You don't have to be Justin Herbert. Lamar Jackson's not Justin Herbert. Like, you could be a different quarterback than Justin Herbert or a guy like that and succeed. That's the thing that people don't get about Tua is he's not Justin Herbert, and that's okay. He's an accurate guy. And that's a good thing. You want accuracy. He's not going to make the Patrick Mahomes type of throws, but he's going to make those Drew Brees type of throws where it's precision, where he kills you by death by a paper thousand cuts. He kills you like that. And if you give him an offensive line, I think he can do something like that. I don't know what kind of mind he has. Drew Brees had an amazing football mind. I'm not sure what Tua's mind is. I don't know him personally. I haven't seen him enough to say what kind of mind he has football-wise, but just accuracy-wise, it reminds me of potentially of the Drew Brees type of accuracy. Everybody wrote him off because he was hurt, injury-prone too, and look how he turned out. So don't necessarily kill a guy who's had a little more than a year's worth of starts and had the worst offensive line you could possibly ever have.
John,
this is not homerism.
I will say this to John's point. I was curious because I don't watch Tua often. I admit that. But, John, you'll be happy to know this actually helps you. Tua does have so far a career 66% completion percentage. Now, I'm not saying...
But that's his game. That's what his game is, his accuracy.
Hold on. All I'm saying is that John may have some some slight credibility to say that Tua is a relatively accurate quarterback. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm not agreeing with the Drew Brees stuff.
I'm just
that's
telling
a
you.
little
I'm just
that's a little
telling you
bit
that
much. But hold on.
that's his game. That's what it is. It's not Justin Herbert.
I do give Tua some credit that he's been a relatively accurate quarterback. That's all I'm saying. I think the Drew Brees stuff is way too far. I think that's a little bit.
No, I said potential, that type of accuracy.
But I'm just saying, I understand that he's an accurate quarterback for the most part. I will give him that. That much I will give him. But that is all I will give him.
Yeah,
that's absolutely it.
But I'll tell you right now, I'm not saying Tua is a bad quarterback.
Yes.
I'm saying he's a good quarterback. Good. Okay. You give a guy, a suitable running game, that's fine. But I still think he's a little bit limited in some areas because you do need that vertical passing to be able to have a big play every now and then downfield.
But he did make throws like that this year.
Yeah, but
it's just he has a lot of drop. There's a lot of drops in that receiving core.
Well, again, you're going to have drops in every team. I don't care who you are, but his durability issues could make or break the guy. Ryan Fitzpatrick, to me, played pretty well last year, not this past year, and they needed him in there because you knew you can stretch the defense. I don't think Tua can stretch a defense.
Well, that was also Chan Gailey's offense, and Chan Gailey didn't want Tua.
Okay, but then again, there you go. What you're doing, John, is
I'm just telling you what the facts. Like Chan Gailey did not want Tua. His offense was predicated on Ryan Fitzpatrick, not Tua.
Okay, but again,
Chan Gailey didn't want him.
Right.
But
Brian Flores didn't want him.
The instability with the offensive coordinator. I'm sorry, Eric. The offensive coordinator and the head coach obviously present you. This guy don't want this guy. This guy don't want that guy. And all of a sudden, you don't know who wants what, and that's where where you could wreck a quarterback in a franchise where you all need to be on the same page. Again, I'm not going to give Tua the bust characterization yet. Maybe 2 or 3 years from now, I might, depending on whether he lives up to expectations. But you got to remember, you had a chance at Justin Herbert, and he went 6th. Hello, I think the guy's really good. Okay,
and you know who won him, don't you? Brian Flores. I guarantee you.
He did. He did.
Let's get that Herbert kid. And you know what? Herbert is on a better situation, I believe. I think he's got a better team in front of him. But with that said, I just think he's got a better raw talent. And that's one of those times where I said Flores, he would have been right. But again, it was that power struggle that we go back to that caused the rift that we saw and the reason for the firing. It all goes back to that. And it's just how sports go sometimes. And it's a sad part of it. It's a business. And if you are below a certain person, sometimes your say doesn't get counted as much. And that's just the way it is, no matter what.
Well, think of the quarterbacks you have in the playoffs this year. You got Joe Burrow, got hurt last year. This kid's a stud. He really is. You got Coach Zach Taylor, Joe Burrow. Then again, doesn't hurt. You have Jamar Chase. Then you also have Joe Mixon. And you got a pretty good team out in Cincinnati. It took Derek Carr forever to get in the playoffs. But the guy, I would love to have him on the team. And the beat goes on. And no matter how we try to slice this pie all day long, you need to have cohesiveness in the key places. And like you said, Eric, when one coach doesn't want the player, and again, look at the history of the coaches. The Dolphins can't keep coaches longer than 3 years anyways. And take it down to another level. Bill Parcells worked under Wayne Huizenga when Stephen Ross bought the franchise. He got out. He didn't want to work with Ross. He must have known something about him and said, you know what, there was a clause in my contract. I'm leaving Wayne Huizenga and Stephen Ross there. I know enough about Stephen Ross, so I don't want to say here that I'm going to criticize one thing or the other. But Bill Parcells isn't stupid. He really isn't.
No, not at all.
And yet Tony Sperano winning playoff games, there was some pretty dark times. But when an organization can't keep a coach longer than 3 years consistently, you really have to. It makes you wonder a little bit.
So Jake,
you're absolutely right.
So Jake, you wanted to talk about your Giants, and we talked a lot about the Dolphins. So I wanted to give you the floor because you had said
I made this. I copied and I made this for myself because I have plenty to say. However, with that said, I need to make sure everybody also knows, just like I always do for John, just like I do for John, his words are his, my words are mine. What I say are only my thoughts. Guys, I have never been so happy about the New York Football Giants. Oh, this was like heaven.
I wish JB was here.
This past weekend could not have been better for the Giants. Because, look, I remember when we fired Jerry Reese, and I was so happy because I was like, we got rid of one of the bad guys. One of the guys has not fixed the Giants. And then we brought in Dave Gettleman. And I thought, you know what? It's a fresh start. Give him a chance. Maybe he'll do things right. And now here we are a couple of years later. And all I could say is I am so glad he's gone because he might be just as bad, if not worse, than what Jerry Reese was. You have no idea how elated I was to get rid of him. And then Joe Judge, with no offense to him, he inherited a bad situation, but he did not do things right. And I will talk about him in a minute. But I will start with Dave Gettleman. Look, I understand Saquon Barkley was a generational talent, and a lot of people felt that way. Oh, there's JB.
I'm sorry. You were talking about the Giants. I was listening in. I'm in the car driving back. Oh, I've never been so happy. I was so disappointed yesterday.
I trust me. So, look, Saquon Barkley, generational talent. I understand you don't want to pass up on it. I excuse that pick for the moment while I say this. But this year and years past, I'll use Saquon's draft and this year as my two. Actually, even last year, I'll use those three as the perfect examples. So let's say you still take Saquon and you let Quentin Nelson go. The Colts get him. Fine. But last year, you take Andrew Thomas. Okay, who else could we have had? Tristan Wirfs. You guys know off the top of your head how many sacks Tristan Wirfs let up last year? That's right.
1.
0. He didn't let up any. I believe it was the regular season was 0. Maybe in the playoffs he let up.
Oh, okay. All right.
Even if it was 1, even if I'm wrong and it's 1, who cares? 1 sack is unbelievable.
He's all pro. Yeah,
he's so incredible for a rookie. He wasn't a 10-year pro. He's a rookie. It was unbelievable. And all I thought was we could have had him. And then this year, okay, we drafted Kadarius Toney. Look, no offense to this guy. He is a solid athlete. Okay, it's not personal. But what was that pick? Okay, I look at the Chargers. Who'd they get? Rashawn Slater. I guarantee you we could have got him if we tried. I believe
you could have had Micah Parsons.
Could have had that too.
I would have been happy with that one. Let me just say that. I would have been happy with him at the Giants rather than where he is currently.
But I'm just thinking offensive line, right? Offensive line is a huge issue. Those are now 3 guys that we let go. And fine, you get Saquon, so you skip Quentin Nelson, and I accept that. But those are 2 guys that are incredible players. At Creed Humphreys, a center that I believe I know he was picked after. We could have had him too. There are a multitude of offensive linemen we could have had. Why didn't we get them? Because Dave Gettleman had such a big ego that he thought, I got to get the flashy guys. And all I could think was, no, we hired you to do exactly the opposite because Jerry Reese did the same stupid stuff. He wouldn't go for the right guys. And that's not to mention Dave Gettleman drafted Daniel Jones. He was like a 2nd or 3rd round pick, not a 1st round pick. I mean, it makes my head want to explode. I mean, come on. So I could not be happier. He is gone. Look, I understand he may have thought those were the right things, but the average fan could have figured out that was wrong, dude. I mean, come on. And then Joe Judge, and then JB, I want to hear what you have to say, but I just want to say this. Look, I understand he was inheriting a bad situation. That's fine. And I was not ready to get him fired until what I saw this weekend. This last week in Week 18, what I saw was the worst play a coach could have called. I was so disgusted that I saw the play and said immediately, the man needs to be fired because that is unacceptable. Yeah, I believe it was a 3rd and 9. It was 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9.
3rd and 9.
Calls a QB sneak from his own he was within his own 20, I believe.
The 4-yard line.
Okay, there you go. So he was within his own 10-yard line. His own 5.
It was 2nd and 3rd down. 2 plays in a row.
Okay. even worse. I admit I wasn't watching the game this weekend. I was on a vacation. But with that said, I know I saw the replays. I know what happened. So thank you for the correction, JB.
You're welcome.
How do you call that? Look, I get you want to get yards for the punt probably. You know you're not going anywhere. If you run it with Saquon Barkley for those plays, I may not like it, but I appreciate you're trying to make an effort to gain yards. A QB sneak is, not going to get you more than 2 yards if you're lucky? You're not getting close to a first down. What are you thinking? And for me, I saw it. I said, he needs to go. He absolutely needs to go. Along with the fact that, of course, we're talking about the fact that we're going to bring a new GM in. You want to get the GM. You want him to come in and have his own staff. I respect that. I appreciate that. I'm cool with that. But when Joe Judge called that play, that was when I said he needs to be fired. If he doesn't make that stupid play call, I could understand him being brought for one more year, and I wouldn't be totally upset. I may not love it, but I'd accept it. But when you make a cowardly call like that, I don't care what the situation is. That says to me, I am giving up. I'm done. I don't care. And that's not the kind of coach you want on any team. And this is my team. And I admit, I love my team. The last thing I want is a coach that's going to give up. That's why I love Tom Coughlin. I know JB was never a fan, and I understand that, and he's entitled to that opinion.
I loved Coughlin.
But the one thing I always appreciated about Coughlin, he did not give up. He may not have always been the best coach.
He held his players accountable, that's for sure.
Exactly. He was the loudest voice in the room. He was not afraid to do what he had to do, and I at least appreciated that. I understand he wasn't a perfect coach, but you know what? He held his players accountable, and he did what he had to do. He wasn't afraid to go out and do things. Joe Judge was completely the opposite this weekend, and to me, I was disgusted. So for me, that's why I said he needed to go, and I couldn't be happier after seeing that. If that didn't happen, I'm not calling for his head. I saw that. I was waiting for him to get fired. There was no way that you could respectably keep him around, and I'm glad they didn't.
Well, Dave Gettleman didn't do you any favors when you go out there and bring in Kenny Golladay either, who couldn't stay in the field, and some of those overpriced free agents that you had as well. So, and the Detroit Lions figure you gave us their Christmas gift when you decided to overpay them anyway. So, we're taking them off our hands. But he didn't see a whole lot of. I think he underproduced for what his contract is.
Oh, he had 0 touchdowns. There's linemen that had more touchdowns.
Right.
The defense regressed. The coach, they got rid of Garrett, and the offense got worse. You got a coach that lost his team. That's the only thing I could say, having gone to Chicago the week before, and the game was over within the first 15 seconds, 30 seconds of the game. They were down 2 touchdowns, and then running back-to-back quarterback sneaks from the 4-yard line when you could run a draw, you could run a screen pass, you could try and throw the ball. I mean, you got to play to win the game. Listen, I'm not a fan of Tom Coughlin. Jake already told you that. But the last 3 coaches we've had in this position weren't even able to hold Tom Coughlin's jock. They've been horrible. I mean, listen, I've gone through a period the last 5 years. Come December 1st, I'm looking for what team I'm going to root for the rest of the year. Because being a Giant fan, there's nothing positive to look. This is like being a Jet fan. I mean, we understand that frustration. I think we're kind of symbiotic right now.
A little bit, yeah.
Well, JB, it's not that easy if you're a Detroit Lions guy either, just so you know. In fact, let me give you a little piece of trivia, okay, being from that area. The last time the Lions won a championship was on December 29, 1957. Okay, and I got to tell you a very interesting thing about December 29th. Happens to be my birthday, but I was in December 29th, 1962. So if anybody needs to be a math major here, that the Lions won a championship on my birthday 5 years before I was born, I didn't go ahead and pass a college math class to know that it didn't take much to come up with 5 years for a title. So if you folks in New York think you got it bad, it's going to be a whole heck of a lot worse than Detroit. That's
only if we could have the Giants do well and then just have the Yankees be in the same position the Giants are in.
That
would be fantastic. You could just
No,
trade them, switch them. I would love
No.
that. I would be so
Listen,
happy. Just
Yeah, because you're an
Giants-
down
Orioles.
to nothingness.
You're an Orioles fan, and you just want us to be bad in the division that you're in.
That's what
know.
I
But the
want. It's
Yankees
all I
aren't
want
gonna-
for Christmas.
We're not going to win anything the way this
no,
team's set up
no.
anyway, the Yankees. So don't worry about it. And that's coming from a Yankee fan.
He's right. He's right. But
So-
that's yeah.
They're a non-factor.
Gentlemen, we got about 15 minutes here left, and I definitely would like to get Scott, the Motor City Mad Mouth. I want to get your thoughts on the only Florida team that is actually in the playoffs this weekend, and that would be the reigning champ Tampa Bay Buccaneers. My team, the Philadelphia Eagles, are the, as some people are calling us, we are the extra bye week for Tampa, because there are some people who feel that we're going to come down here and not make a statement. Now, I will give you the objective opinion because this is Sideline Sports. If you want to hear the real opinion, make sure you stay tuned for tomorrow night on the Sports Arena. But what I will say to you is this. Our defense over the last 6 weeks has gotten better. We have held teams to under 20 points. And I feel as though if there's one thing that Tom Brady fears, I think it is fear that either Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, or someone on our defense, maybe Alex Singleton, might actually get through Tristan Wirfs in that offensive line and might actually get to Brady. That being said, Jalen Hurts is in a position he's never been in. Dallas Goedert's in a position he's never been in. My wide receivers, Devontae Smith, Quez Watkins, Greg Ward Jr., not in a position that we've been in. But we are 2-2 when it comes to playing Tampa. That's including postseason. So I am very interested to see how this plays. But I'd like to hear from Scott on this one.
Well, I'll tell you two things that describe the Philadelphia Eagles situation. 2 words. Ready? House money. House money. Nobody expects them to do anything. Do you think anybody really expected this team to even make the tournament this year? Nobody did. And if you really want gifts to be handed down, what about that trade for Carson Wentz? Okay, that went to Indianapolis, so it allowed you to move up to 3 spots, I believe, to get Devontae Smith. Hello, Dolly. Okay, it's so nice to not be with you, Carson Wentz, because we got ourselves that thing called a wide receiver. Okay, so I think if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers underestimate this Philadelphia Eagles team, they're going to be in trouble. And it's not like Tampa Bay Bucks are loaded either, okay? Antonio Brown went off the deep end. They've got a bunch of injuries. Okay, so I think the one guy who could be a real big factor in this thing for Tampa, now that he has a little time, is watcher Le'Veon Bell. If you can get him involved as a receiver, as well as get some adequate carries since Leonard Fournette is out, then he could be a name who's is called a lot. Godwin, I believe, or is it Mike Evans that's playing, right? He needs to have a big
Mike
game.
Evans is playing. Chris Godwin's
Right.
out.
Yep.
And of course, we all know Rob Gronkowski. So, but if I were the Tampa Bay Bucks, don't sell this Philadelphia Eagles team short. If you do, you might find yourself in a situation where once upon a time, the Seattle Supersonics once underestimated the Denver Nuggets. And how did that turn out, NBA fans? Not too good. You had the 1 versus 8 matchup, and Dikembe Mutombo was happy as you know what. And the Seattle Supersonics, well, they're a footnote for the 1 versus 8 seed. So David Goliath, I don't know. I'm not even going to venture into the Tom Brady MVP situation because it's arbitrary whether you feel that Rodgers deserves it or Brady. Brady's done a really, really good job there. But I'll tell you what, Jalen Hurts has proved a lot of people wrong that he's been able to solidify that quarterback position. And you know what? What was he drafted in the 2nd round, I believe? Is just a backup to Carson Wentz. Well, yeah, Carson was worried about a little bit of competition. It just so happens that you have a very athletic quarterback that played with Alabama, and he also played with Oklahoma and did pretty well. I actually thought the pick of Jalen Hurts, I commended the Eagles for making it in the first place. So, but don't underestimate Nick Sirianni as a coach. I think this, believe it or not, this game with the Eagles and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is going to be closer than most people think. I really, really, really do. whether it's because Tampa's hit with a lot of injuries or whether Philadelphia could go down to Tampa and just be loose. It doesn't make any difference because the longer the Philadelphia Eagles stay in this football game, the more confidence they have, especially when you get to those final 15 minutes or so. Anything's possible.
And it's not going to be 137 degrees out here. It's not going to be like, the heat index is going to be 190 and you got people in the stands with heat exhaustion. So, no, this is going to be a great game. I'm excited to see what happens. Of course, I never cheer against my team. There are two teams I cheer for every Sunday. That is Philadelphia and whoever's playing Dallas. So that is me.
Well, it'll be a better game than most people think it is. If you're going out there to pencil in a route, okay, I wouldn't do it on this game. Listen, guys, I just witnessed the Jacksonville Jaguars beat the Colts over the weekend. And when I took that 5-hour drive, I thought, no way, shape, or form. I was looking for the Jonathan Taylor show. Well, I don't think 77 yards and Carson Wentz having one of his worst performances, as we talk about the whole connection between Indianapolis and Philadelphia, all that situation looked like is that Philadelphia made the right move going to Indianapolis, sending him there, and he can perform in Indianapolis with a coach he's all too familiar with. So, I don't know. I think this is going to be a much better game than most people think, Eric, and the rest of you guys. I really do. I wouldn't if there's an upset there, it's possible. And when you look at the track record of how many road teams win, you never know. Because I think that once you're playing ball, then you can take the attendance out in some way, shape, or form too.
And just so you know, Carson Wentz, Jalen Hurts had the 5th most drops amongst his receivers this year out of anybody in the NFL. So if not for the 5th most drops, his stats probably are a lot better than what they actually are. So Tua had the first, was number 1 in drops, by the way. So
that's why I brought it up.
Well, when you go into next year's draft, when you go into next year's draft, I believe that Philadelphia has some draft capital coming.
Oh,
too.
yeah, because courtesy of us.
Yeah.
Right. So they can go ahead and address the wide receivers position to make things even better for Jalen Hurts.
JB?
Eric, quick question for you as the Philly guy. Why is the perception of Jalen Hurts so negative? Like they're trying to run him out of town. I think you guys had a phenomenal year.
Well, because, to piggyback off what Scott was saying, we're playing with house money right now. The expectation, the bar was set extremely low for the success of Jalen Hurts because we were unsure of what he was capable of. Now, listen, when you play 4 games in your rookie season and don't really have much tape on an individual, we were unsure of what to look at. It doesn't matter. As a fan, not as a media person, as a true fan, okay? We need to see the production on the field. And Philly just as well as Jake does and anybody else does. You got about 3 games, maybe 4, for you to show us who you are and what you're capable of. Because it's going to be a long road to hoe to bring yourself back into our good graces if you start 1-3. That's what we do. That's just who we are. You have to go through the mud and earn your stripes if you are a Philadelphia athlete. But if you go out there week in and week out and you hard-nosed grind it from start to finish and you give us 110% each and every week, win, lose, or draw, then you've earned our respect and you've earned our love and we will support you. But see, you can't be this rookie coming in and because you have one good game against the New Orleans Saints, but then you can't win against divisional opponents. I don't care about all the distractions on the front end or the back end. I want to see, do you have the adversity? Do you have the tenacity? Do you have the grit? Do you have that dog mentality to get the job done? Now, listen, things aren't always going to fall the way you want them to fall, and we understand that. But just because you beat Drew Brees and the Saints one time does not give you the right to be sticking out your tongue thinking that you got everything figured out. Bruh, you still wet behind the ears and need to get a diaper changed, okay? Instead of throwing snowballs at Stan and we'll go 30 diapers at you. Now, this is the Philly fan coming out in me. I'm just letting y'all know because this is the playoffs. I say all of that, JB, to say he has shown promise. He has shown that he has durability. He has shown that he has capability. Do something. Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes, I can say that for you. Yep. Do something this weekend, this Sunday down here in Tampa. Play the full 60 minutes. Okay, no matter the outcome, play like your life depends on it. And I guarantee you, minds might begin to change.
Your words were so powerful, we lost JB.
He'll be back in a moment, I'm sure. But that's how I feel. I know we got about 5 minutes left.
Not even,
Scott, man,
because we got to wrap up too. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, we do.
No
Scott,
worries.
thank you so much for being a part of this, man. We really appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow on the Sports Arena. We're going to keep this conversation going, and we're going to talk about more of the games and really break down the playoffs.
Well, guys, thank you very much for having me. I really enjoyed my time with all you guys. You're all a class act, and it's really great to be able to go ahead and talk sports with you. Thank you,
Scott.
Thank you, sir.
Well,
We'll stick around, and then we'll talk to you after the show. Do you want? By the way, before you go, do you again want to tell the people who you are, where they can find you?
Sure, absolutely. Okay, you can. Okay, if you want to follow me at Twitter, feel free to do so. Tribune South. That's TRIBUNE South. Follow me there. Our website is www.southfloridatribune.com. That's the online publication. And for those of you that want to go ahead and subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel, just go to youtube.com and look for South Florida Tribune. And then you can see a lot of the content that I bring as well. And hopefully down the road I'll bring on as a guest from time to time there. So those are a few of the things as well. So thanks for having me. You guys are phenomenal. I had a blast.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it, Scott. All righty.
So I guess that's going to do it for us here. Any final word? Any final before we get out of here?
Yeah, let's go around the horn. Eric, you want to tell them where they can find you?
Well, I've been preaching it all night, so shameless plug again. Sports Arena, Mondays and Wednesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. With my man, Jon Shearer. Jake's been on there a couple times. JB's been on there once or twice. We just finished up season 2 of Alex Fleming's NFL Carousel, which is Thursday nights at 7 p.m. I cover the Chicago Sky, and hey, fly Eagles fly. Let's see what happens on Sunday. Oh, and my Twitter handle right there at ECWilson76.
John.
Yeah, Fox Sports 1340 AM. I freelance with them, so I write for them. Inscriber magazine, we have our own Sideline Sports section on there, so you can find us on there. Sports Arena on Monday and Wednesday nights, 10 Eastern time, like Eric said. Alex Fleming's NFL Carousel during the NFL regular season, season 3. Check that out next year. And Sideline Sports, of course. We have an assortment of shows. Obviously, our Tuesday night show, 8:30. DBNA television every morning, 4 a.m. You can find us on there, 4 a.m. DBNA television. That's very important. Make sure you check out.
1 a.m.
Huh?
I thought it was 1 a.m.
4 a.m. for now.
4 a.m.
Still
for
4?
now.
Make it
Okay.
change.
All right.
And make sure you guys, again, check out Score No Score. Very important that you do. That's a new app. It's an innovative sports app that nobody's done. Nobody has anything like
I was
what
just playing the other
Score No
night.
Score has. So you want to check them out. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's fun. Doesn't cost you anything unless you want to buy some coins. If you bet out your coins,
free, I believe.
They give you coins to start out, and if you run out, you can buy more for, I think it's 99 cents. Very cheap. So it's a lot of fun. Check them out and check out Manscaped, code SSN.
John, can you do me a real quick favor while I start plugging my stuff? Can you take your headphones off and let your hair down? Because I got to see something here. Because it's okay. I just wanted to make fun of that. I wanted to see how long it had gotten, because I got to tell you, when you slick it back with the headphones on, you're giving me a little bit of an Aaron Rodgers vibe with the beard and the goatee and the hair.
I got the long hair back here. I got the long hair back.
Let me see the injured toe, John. Show us the injured toe, John.
I got the injured
John,
toe.
John, are you vaccinated?
I am immunized.
Oh, smart answer. John, I had to do it. I was looking at you all episodes. You got me last week with the Joe Burrow thing. I got you this week with Aaron Rodgers. I'm looking at you.
I really wish Joe Burrow would have responded to you. I really wanted him to.
Anyway, you guys can find me on Instagram and Twitter and all that at Jake_Malik. But more importantly, Sideline Sports, you can find it on a lot of places. We got our YouTube, we got Facebook, All of those are just Sideline Sports, our Instagram and Twitter, as you see on the bottom of the screen, Sideline Sport 1. We are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, you name it, we're there. DBA Television, like John said, we're everywhere. It's Score, No Score, you name it, we're there. Anything else, gentlemen, before we wrap this up?
No, I'm excited for the playoffs. I can't wait.
I am too.
Can't wait. All right. Well, then, everybody have a good one. We'll see you next time.